Hello loves, and welcome to another monthly reading wrap up. This is the wrap up for April's books, and yeah, I'm pretty excited. Let's get into it. So I ended up reading 10 books in April. 5 of them were by POC authors, including Deathless Divide, the first in this series, and 3 of them were continuations of series. I had 5 favorites and 5 that range from I really like this to eh. As part of my 24-hour readathon that I started off the month with, I ended up reading My Dark Vanessa, Tess of the Road, Foul is Fair, and Nothing But Blackened Teeth. I will have that linked here if you're interested in learning more about my thoughts. Otherwise, Nothing But Blackened Teeth is a really short novella that is supposed to be a gorgeously creepy haunted house tale steeped in Japanese folklore. I did not like this book. I felt like it was trying to do too much stuff and it kind of just let me down. It wasn't terrible. There was nothing necessarily wrong with it, but it didn't really do anything for me. Foul is Fair is a revenge story about a girl who was essayed at a party, and it's kind of her and her friends doing some extreme stuff to get her revenge. Tess of the Road is a story about a girl who is dealing with her station in life and not being happy with it. Eventually, when she is supposed to be set off to nunnery, she decides to go on her own and have her own little adventure. It does have some fantasy elements, but admittedly it's a little bit more about dealing with societal's expectation on women and pureness and just all kinds of ridiculousness. I did not really like much at first, but I kind of got into it and felt like it was a pretty good 3-star, low 4-star, but it takes a while. And then My Dark Vanessa is about a woman who was groomed as a teenager by her 40-year-old teacher or something like that, and it's about her coming to terms with what happened to her. It's very hard to read, very disturbing, but very well done, and I ended up giving it like 5 stars. Next up, I read Dread Nation and Deathless Divide. If you watched my POC fantasy book recommendation video that talked about books that brought you back in time, this was a book I recommended and I absolutely adore. The first book, which I don't have, is about a girl who is at a finishing school for Black women to learn how to fight zombies so that they could protect their white counterparts, and it's her kind of dealing with her future, dealing with the zombies, and obviously dealing with prejudices against her and other people of color. I loved it. I loved it. It does have race as a big part of it. Gave an interesting twist. It gave you hope. It gave you power. It gave you sadness and frustration. It did a lot. Highly recommend. I want more. I then ended up reading A Blight of Black Wings, which was the second book in the Seven Kinnings series, the first book being A Plague of Giants, which is pretty much a bard telling the story of this big event that happened in the perspective of different people who were at that big event. I really enjoyed the first one, and I jumped into this one and got right into it pretty quickly, and then kind of petered out and was, you know, like, oh, what's going on, what's gonna happen. And then unfortunately, once I got really into it again, I realized that this wasn't the end of the series and I'm going to have to wait to continue. So this one wasn't my favorite, but I still love the series and I'm still interested in seeing how it turns out, like what's going on. This one I think ended up being 3 stars. Then I ended up picking up The Dating Plan. This was the February POC Book Club book pick, and I have an entire live show where we chat about it and have a really good time. Again, thank you to everybody who ended up joining for the live show. I absolutely adore chatting with you guys. It was a lot of fun, and this book ended up being a favorite romance for me, except, and here's the kicker, I kind of forgot a lot that happened after the fact. So when I read it, I was just amazed at how much I enjoyed it. I was expecting not to really like it that much, and then I got really into it. It's a friends to enemies to fake dating sort of situation. I do know that there is a really wonderful family aspect to the story, but I kind of have just forgotten a lot of the details, which is very frustrating. I do imagine I'm going to read it again because I did enjoy it so much my first read, but as a book that I was thinking was my favorite romance in a while, it's kind of hard to say that if I can't remember most of the book. WTF. Then we end up getting to Sweet Little Lies, and this is a detective mystery story that was so-so. I didn't really care about anything that was going on. It wasn't a bad story. I didn't hate it. I was interested enough to stay and listen to figure out what the mystery was, but I wasn't as invested as you should have been based off of the type of story, and when I finished it I was like, ah, okay, that was cool. So this ended up being a 3 stars for me. Kind of forgettable, unfortunately. And then the last book that I ended up reading this month was The Monarchs, and this is the sequel to The Ravens. Both books are focusing on a sorority of secret witches and the struggles that they go through because of that. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the first one, and like the first one, it took me a while to kind of get into it, but once I really got into it, I was super invested. This one, I don't think I was entirely in the mood while reading it. You can see that in the weekly vlog that I did at the end of the month. Yeah, I struggled with a little bit, not because I wasn't interested or invested in what was going on, but I think I just wasn't necessarily in the mood. That is until I got to the very last part where just so much was going on and it was so interesting and I was so invested in it that I really got into it. So I ended up liking it. If you liked the first one, you'll probably like this one as well. I definitely have to say my favorites for the month would be Dread Nation and Deathless Divide in the #1 spot. And then fighting in second place, I would think would be The Dating Plan and The Monarchs. If I could remember all of the bits that I love about this more, this would probably beat out The Monarchs because I was struggling with it, but there's so much that I love about the witchy aspect and the way that it ended, and I just finished this book, so it's fresh in my mind that I can't really pick one over the other at the moment. All right, and that is all of my books for April. That was a lot of fun. Let me know what kind of things you want to hear when I do these monthly wrap-ups. If you made it this far, be sure to include this emoji down below to let me know. Panda Squad. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to remember that you are awesome, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye!